Welcome, dear listener, to the Sleeping Hourglass. Tonight we drift into the life of Isaac, the heir of still waters. In a world of wandering tents and restless faith, his story unfolds not in fire or struggle, but in patience. Between Abraham's blazing faith and Jacob's restless wrestling, Isaac teaches us the courage of listening, the holiness of waiting, and the power of a life lived without thunder. If this gentle corner of time brings you peace, you're always welcome to like or subscribe. A small, kind way to keep this restful space alive. The desert stretches in long, unbroken silence. The air holds the warmth of the day, but the light softens now, bending into evening. Isaac walks alone in the field. His steps are slow, thoughtful. The ground is dry beneath his feet, the horizon open before him. Somewhere beyond the hills, the sun slips lower, and the sky turns to gold. The hour when day exhales into night. He has come here often. This is his quiet hour, when the camp grows still and the noise of men fades into the murmur of the wind. It is here, in this solitude, that he speaks to God, not with many words, but with listening. The kind of prayer that breathes, not burns. He is the son of promise, the child for whom his father waited a century. He knows the stories. They have shaped the rhythm of his days. How Abraham once left everything behind because of a voice. How Sarah laughed when she heard she would bear a son. How laughter became his very name, Isaac. But now Abraham has grown old. His mother, Sarah, is gone. Her tent stands silent, its woven walls faint with her memory. Isaac's grief is gentle now, like the afterglow of a setting sun, but the emptiness remains. And so he walks and prays for comfort, for companionship, for the continuation of a promise larger than his life. Far away, beyond the horizon, another journey is drawing to its close. Abraham's servant, the oldest in his household, guides a caravan of camels across the sands. He has travelled to the land of Nahor to seek a wife for his master's son. The Lord has guided him through prayer, through a sign, through a meeting at a well. Rebekah. She had come to draw water in the cool of the evening, as the servant prayed in silence. Before he had finished speaking, she appeared, with kindness in her voice and strength in her arms. She had offered water not only to him, but to all his camels. Her generosity flowed without hesitation, like living water itself. And when he asked whose daughter she was, the answer struck him as divine. She belonged to the very family Abraham had left behind. The servant bowed low, worshipping God for his swift mercy. Now the camels carry her, veiled, quiet, thoughtful, through the wilderness toward Isaac. The rhythmic sway of the journey has given her time to wonder. She has left her home, her kin, her familiar hills, all for a name she has only heard, Isaac. Her heart steadies on faith, the same faith that stirred her uncle Abraham years ago when he stepped into the unknown. Perhaps courage in its truest form is simply trust, the belief that the unseen is not the unreal. The sun continues its descent. The field around Isaac glows amber, the shadows lengthen. He lifts his eyes. Something moves on the horizon. A procession of figures rising and falling against the fading light. Camels. He pauses, his breath caught in quiet wonder. Travellers rarely come at this hour. The air itself seems to hush, as though waiting. The servant recognizes him first. His heart lifts. The long journey, the oaths, the prayers, the signs, have led to this moment. He slides from his camel and goes ahead to meet Isaac. Behind him, Rebekah also sees the man walking in the field. Her pulse quickens. Who is that man walking in the field to meet us? she asks the servant. "It is my master," he replies. At once, she takes her veil and covers herself. It is an act of reverence, humility, and readiness, a quiet acknowledgement of sacred beginning. The servant approaches Isaac and tells him all that he has done. He recounts the journey, the well, the prayer, and the sign that God had granted. Isaac listens, his heart softening with every word. This is not mere coincidence. This is providence, gentle and sure as the flow of water beneath the earth. Rebekah descends from her camel. The desert wind moves lightly around them, stirring the veil across her face. She stands still, the woman chosen by God, the answer to a son's unspoken prayers. Isaac steps toward her. There are no grand gestures, no words recorded, only a meeting beneath the quiet vastness of the sky. In this still exchange, heaven and earth meet. Promise finds breath again. Later, Isaac leads Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent. The place that had long stood in silence now receives light once more. The Bible says simply, "And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death." That word, comforted, carries the weight of peace restored. Love, in Isaac's story, is not loud or sudden. It is tender, healing, steady. It arrives like evening rain after drought, soft, faithful enough. The household begins anew. The wells dug by Abraham still flow. The herds graze on open fields. The promise that through Abraham's seed all nations will be blessed continues to move quietly through time. Isaac and Rebekah's union is not marked by thunder or vision, but by stillness. The covenant passes not in lightning, but in love. As the stars bloom above their tents, one might imagine Isaac stepping outside, lifting his gaze to the same sky his father once counted. Every star a whisper of God's faithfulness. Every breath a reminder that the promise endures. In the hush of the desert night, he remembers the moment she came. The line of camels against the fading sun, the soft movement of her veil, the sudden peace in his heart. And somewhere deep within that silence, the story of Israel continues its quiet unfolding. For from this union will come sons, nations in waiting, and the ancient promise will root itself deeper into human history. But for now, the night is calm, the tents glow with lamplight. Two hearts, once strangers, now rest beneath the same stars. Isaac's faith begins to take its true form, not the faith of leaving, like Abraham's, nor the faith of wrestling, like Jacob's, but the faith of staying, of tending, of believing quietly when the world is still. The wells of his father wait in the distance, their waters reflecting the moon. Life, like the desert, holds both dryness and abundance, and in the gentle rhythm of this union, we see the echo of something eternal. The promise that love, when anchored in faith, carries covenant forward. The story of Isaac does not roar, it breathes. In the stillness of the desert night, where love becomes comfort and faith takes root in silence, another story begins to stir. The years of waiting, when heaven listens to the prayers of a barren heart. The seasons turn, quietly, endlessly. The herds move with the rhythm of the land, and the tents of Isaac's camp stand where the wells still give water. Time passes not with haste, but with the patient pulse of desert life, sunrise, labor, rest, and prayer. And through all those years, one silence lingers deeper than the rest. Rebekah's womb remains closed. The promise of God had flowed like a river through the generations, from Abraham to Isaac, and in time, through him to nations yet unseen. But now, in the stillness of their union, no child comes. The tent that once glowed with the light of love begins to carry a quieter tone. Not despair, but the weight of longing too deep for words. The Bible does not say how many nights Rebekah wept in solitude, nor how many times she turned her face toward the heavens in wordless plea. It only says, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived." But before that answer came, there were years of slow waiting, years where faith stretched thin like fabric in the sun, but did not tear. Years where hope was practiced, not proclaimed. Isaac does not speak much in Scripture. His faith is quieter than his father's, less visible, less dramatic. Abraham had been called to leave everything, to offer even his son. Isaac is called to remain, to endure, to believe when heaven seems silent. So he prays, not with the urgency of one demanding, but with the steadiness of one trusting. His prayer is the kind that grows through repetition. Soft words whispered into the wind, sinking into the dust of the earth, waiting for rain. The desert around him knows something of barrenness. It waits for the clouds that seldom come, yet it does not stop existing. It simply endures, holding its breath until life returns. Isaac's heart becomes like that landscape, dry perhaps, but open, faithful, ready. Rebekah too waits. She tends the daily life of their camp, her hands busy though her spirit aches. There are moments, perhaps, when she sees the children of their servants playing and turns her gaze away. Not out of bitterness but longing. Every year, her hope feels both fragile and new, like the first bud after drought. And yet, through those barren years, their love does not fade. It deepens. Isaac's prayer for her is not the prayer of frustration, but of compassion. The Scripture says, for his wife. He prays not for himself, not for legacy or name, but for her peace, her comfort, her fulfillment. There is tenderness in that silence, a kind of sacred quiet where love becomes intercession. Perhaps at night, Isaac steps out beneath the stars. The same stars his father once counted now shimmer above him. Countless, innumerable, a living promise. Yet each one feels distant, unreachable. Still he watches. For faith, he has learned, is not always seeing the fulfillment. It is continuing to look upward when the sky seems empty. The camp moves through its years. Flocks multiply. Wells remain strong. The people speak of prosperity, but within the tent of Isaac and Rebekah, there is an ache only God can see, and heaven does see. It listens, quietly, patiently. Then, one day, the Scripture shifts. No grand visitation, no angel's voice, just this, "And the Lord was entreated of him." That single sentence carries the weight of years. The long waiting folds into divine remembrance. The word, entreated, soft, ancient, deliberate, tells of prayer that touched eternity. Rebekah conceives. Life stirs within her, as though the silence itself has broken into song. The tent that had long known stillness now feels the movement of promise. The covenant breathes again through the womb of the woman who once thought herself unseen. But even this new joy carries mystery. The pregnancy is not peaceful. There is struggle within her. The once quiet one becomes a battlefield. Rebekah feels the turmoil and her heart trembles. The joy of conception turns into confusion. Each night she lies awake, feeling the force of life within her twist and press as if two storms collide beneath her ribs. The hands of her maidens soothe her back, but cannot quiet her spirit. If it be so, she whispers one night into the dark, "Why am I thus?" Her voice is soft but strained, half prayer, half cry. Isaac sits by the oil lamp, its flame steady. He has always been a man of peace, one who met God not in thunder but in stillness. Yet now, his eyes mirror the same question she cannot voice aloud. What kind of promise is this? One that moves in turmoil before birth. The silence between them becomes sacred, heavy with divine secrecy. So Rebekah does what Isaac once did. She turns to the Lord. She goes to inquire of him. There is no priest, no altar of stone. Only her heart stretched open before the unseen God of her husband and his father. She does not ask for ease, nor for comfort, but for understanding. The air stills. The desert seems to hold its breath. And then, like a whisper cutting through time itself, the Lord answers, "Two nations are in your womb." He says, "And two manner of people shall be separated from your bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger." The words settle over her like a seal. She does not tremble now. The pain has meaning. The struggle is not chaos, it is prophecy. The life within her carries the weight of future kingdoms, destinies written before birth. What began as a household's quiet joy has become a story that will shape the lineage of faith. When she returns to Isaac, her face is pale but calm. The lamp between them flickers again as she speaks the words God has spoken. Isaac listens, not with surprise, but with the deep stillness of one who recognizes the sound of divine purpose. He knows the voice she heard. It is the same voice that once called his father to leave everything behind. The same voice that stayed his father's hand on the mountain where he himself was laid upon the altar. And now, that same voice speaks through his wife, carving the path of their children before they have even seen the light. Time passes. The months grow heavy. The camp prepares. The women move with reverence, laying out cloths, warming water, whispering prayers. Then comes the cry. A child emerges, red, strong, covered with hair like a cloak. The midwives marvel. They name him Esau. But before the joy settles, another cry follows. A hand, small and grasping, clutches the heel of his brother. They name him Jacob. 2 sons, 2 beginnings. One promise divided between them. Isaac looks upon them both. The firstborn fierce and restless, the second quiet and watchful. His heart swells with love, yet somewhere within, the echo of prophecy hums 2 nations. One will serve the other. He does not yet understand how, but he knows this much. The covenant of God does not move by human rule. The blessing flows not through strength, but through the hidden current of divine choice. As the seasons pass, the prophecy begins to unfold in motion. Esau grows broad and wild, a hunter of the open field, the scent of wilderness clinging to him. Jacob remains among the tents, patient, thoughtful, weaving stillness into his days. To the servants, they are simply 2 sons. But to Isaac and Rebekah, they are the living echo of what God once whispered. Isaac loves Esau, for he reminds him of the open sky, the freedom of youth, the chase of the field. Rebekah's heart, however, leans toward Jacob. She sees in him something quieter, subtler, a reflection of the God who speaks in stillness rather than storm. Between them grows not hatred but tension, a quiet division soft as a line drawn in sand. And so, in their tent, prophecy breathes again. Rebekah remembers the words she heard when the twins were still unseen, and feels them stirring now, not in her body, But in her home, Isaac, aging and dim-eyed, continues to pray. He has learned through years of waiting that God's plan ripens slowly, often in silence. The desert around them begins to change with time. Winds carry whispers of nations to come. Edom and Israel, brothers once bound in the womb, now destined to diverge. But tonight all is still. The twins sleep. The stars burn faintly over the horizon. Rebekah stands outside the tent, gazing at the constellations her father-in-law once counted in faith. She knows she will not live to see the fullness of the promise. But she also knows this, that the covenant continues not through perfect peace, but through the wrestling of destiny. Isaac sits beside her, the desert wind brushing his grey hair. He does not speak, but his silence says what faith always says: God is still at work. The night deepens. Somewhere in the distance a wolf calls, wild, solitary, free. The sound fades, leaving only silence. And in that silence, the ancient promise breathes again. The silence of waiting has given way to movement. A stirring within, a struggle unseen. And in the quiet between two brothers, destiny waits, patient and eternal, preparing for the moment when the birthright of nations will be weighed beneath the stars. Morning light spills over the hills of Canaan, touching the edges of tents that have stood through years of quiet waiting. In the still air, the smell of earth and wool lingers, the fragrance of a household that has learned to move with the rhythm of seasons and prayer. Here lives Isaac, no longer the young man who prayed in the fields, but a father, watching the next generation take form beneath his roof. The promise that began with Abraham now breathes through his sons. Two lives, two destinies, two hearts born from one womb but walking toward opposite horizons. The twins grow, as all stories do, slowly, almost unnoticed, until one day the difference becomes undeniable. Esau comes first into the world, red and strong, his skin rough like the fields he will one day roam. Jacob follows, smaller, softer, his hand clinging to his brother's heel as if unwilling to let go of what was first given. Even their birth carries a whisper of what is to come: struggle, pursuit, inheritance. The tent that once echoed with Rebekah's laughter now fills with the sounds of childhood, of two sons running, arguing, living, one chasing, the other waiting. Esau grows into the wind's companion. He is the son of open plains and untamed places, his hair wild as the hills, his face burnt by the sun. The bow becomes an extension of his arm. The scent of the hunt is his prayer. The world outside calls to him with the voice of freedom and fire. He knows how to track, to wait, to strike, skills that fill Isaac's table with meat and his father's heart with pride. When Esau enters the tent with the dust of the wilderness upon him and the smell of venison roasting, Isaac's eyes light with quiet joy. The old man sees in his firstborn the strength of the earth itself. Something simple, steady, honest. Jacob, meanwhile, moves differently. He lingers among the tents, where the shadows are softer and the sounds of women's voices fill the air. He listens when Rebekah speaks. He learns the patience of waiting, the quiet art of tending. The rhythm of his days is slower. Water drawn from wells, flocks guided through the fields, the silent conversation of hands at work. While Esau's heart beats to the chase, Jacob's beats to the stillness. He listens to his mother, to silence, perhaps even to something beyond both. His hands are not roughened by hunt, but marked by labor gentle and deliberate. His name, Jacob, means heel grabber. Yet beneath the label lies something deeper, a hunger for what lies ahead, a reaching spirit. Between them stands Isaac, the quiet patriarch. He loves Esau not only because he is his firstborn, but because Esau reminds him of something once lost: the vigor of youth, the smell of open fields, the steady work of his father's herds. Isaac's life has been one of wells and peace, but Esau brings back the pulse of movement, of earth and sweat and satisfaction. When the hunter returns, Isaac's heart remembers. In his tent, he waits for Esau's game, for the taste of wildness that breaks the monotony of the plains. It is not favoritism born of neglect, it is affection rooted in memory. But Rebekah, she sees differently. Her love, too, runs deep, but her eyes turn toward the younger son. She has not forgotten the words spoken to her long ago, when her womb wrestled with life. 2 nations are in your womb, and the elder shall serve the younger. That prophecy, like a seed, has never left her heart. She watches Jacob with a quiet knowing. The way he listens, the way he endures, she feels the shape of destiny forming, subtle but certain. In Jacob, she senses the continuation of promise, the same invisible thread that once led her servant's camels to Isaac's field at dusk. Her love is not favoritism either. It is vision, maternal, spiritual, unwavering. And so a quiet divide forms, not of anger, but of affection. Each parent loves what they understand, and each son grows beneath that shadow of understanding. The tent becomes a house of contrasts, the smell of cooking meat mingling with the scent of wool, the laughter of a hunter echoing against the still hum of a shepherd's patience. Yet beneath it all, the covenant hums, a melody too deep for words, older than both father and sons, older than the desert wind. Then comes a day when hunger meets opportunity, the day of the stew. Esau returns from the field faint with exhaustion, his strength spent, his body burning for food. Jacob sits near the fire, stirring a pot of lentil stew, red and fragrant, the kind that warms the body and slows the heart. The smell drifts through the tent like temptation itself. Esau enters, his voice hoarse, his face drawn with hunger. "Let me eat some of that red stew," he says, "for I am faint." Jacob looks up, and the story, quiet until now, turns. Jacob answers, his tone calm, almost measured. "Sell me your birthright today." It is a strange request, almost absurd. Who bargains for something eternal with something as fleeting as a meal? Yet Esau, driven by hunger, waves off the weight of destiny. "I am about to die," he replies. "Of what use is a birthright to me?" And so, in that small exchange, a bowl for a blessing, something unseen shifts in the current of time. Jacob gives bread and stew. Esau eats, drinks, and rises, his hunger sated, but his inheritance lost. Scripture says simply, "Thus Esau despised his birthright." The moment passes quietly, unnoticed by the world outside the tent. The sun sets, the stew cools, and life resumes. Yet heaven has recorded it, not as a crime, but as a revelation. The covenant, ever guided by choice, bends toward the one who values what cannot be seen over what can be tasted. Esau's hunger is honest, human, understandable, but it blinds him to the unseen fire of promise. Jacob's hunger, though quieter, is for something eternal. Isaac does not yet know. Rebekah watches in silence. The household continues, unaware of how the balance has shifted. Around them, the stars burn with ancient patience, the same stars under which God once spoke to Abraham. The story of the promise has moved forward again, not through war or miracle, but through a meal. Through hunger and trade, through the ordinary breath of life. And so, the house of Isaac becomes a place of tension, not open conflict, but difference. One son walks out each morning with bow and arrow, the other kneels by the fire, tending the flocks. One hunts what can be taken, the other waits for what can be given. Between them, the quiet father prays, perhaps for peace, perhaps for understanding. The mother watches, remembering the words of prophecy. And heaven watches, too, patient, unwavering, preparing the next turn in the road. Isaac's tent glows faintly in the twilight, the lamp burning low. The desert is silent except for the whisper of wind against the canvas. In this stillness, a story rests between two brothers, one led by appetite, one led by yearning. Both are sons of promise, yet only one will carry it forward. The covenant breathes, hidden in the folds of time, waiting for its next unveiling. In the quiet after hunger, the land grows still again. Yet beneath the calm, something has shifted, the first tremor of destiny's design. Soon, famine will come, and with it, the testing of faith. And there was a famine in the land, beside the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. The wells grew shallow, and the earth cracked like broken pottery. The wind carried dust instead of rain, and every blade of grass bowed before the sun. Isaac lifted his eyes toward the south, toward Egypt, where the Nile never failed, and the people of the river knew not drought. The thought lingered like an escape. But before he could move his household, before the camels could rise with their burdens, the Lord appeared unto him, and the Lord said, Go not down into Egypt. Dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn in this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and unto thy seed I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. The words fell upon Isaac's heart like rain upon dust. To stay, when reason whispered to flee, to trust, when the ground gave nothing back. It was the quiet obedience of faith, not fire or thunder, that God required of him now. And so Isaac journeyed to Gerar, the land of the Philistines, where Abimelech was king. He set up his tents upon foreign soil, his servants driving the herds to the scarce patches of grass that still clung to life. The people of Gerar watched him with wary eyes, for the man of promise carried a weight they did not understand. Rebekah, fair and radiant still, walked among them, and their gazes lingered. Fear found its place in Isaac's chest. He remembered what had befallen Abraham, how men had desired Sarah for her beauty, and how peril had followed. And Isaac said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, She is my wife, lest, he thought, the men of this place should kill me for Rebekah. Days passed. The lie, thin as a reed, stood between them and danger, yet truth has a way of revealing itself. One afternoon, as the sun slipped low, Abimelech looked out of a lattice and saw Isaac sporting with Rebekah his wife, laughter and tenderness in their gestures, the kind of closeness no brother shows a sister. Then Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, of a surety she is thy wife, and how saidst thou, She is my sister? Isaac bowed his head and answered, Because I said, Lest I die for her. And Abimelech said, What is this thou hast done unto us? One of the people might lightly have lain with thy wife, and thou shouldest have brought guilt upon us. So Abimelech charged all his people, saying, He that toucheth this man or his wife shall surely be put to death. Thus God turned even Isaac's fear into protection, and no harm came near them. Then Isaac sowed in that land, and received in the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. The man waxed great and went forward and grew until he became very great. For he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. The wells which his father's servants had digged in the days of Abraham, the Philistines stopped and filled with earth. Abimelech said unto Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much mightier than we. And Isaac departed thence, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and dwelt there. The sun set upon his exile within exile, a man blessed beyond measure, yet still displaced, still wandering. Around him, the desert stretched endless, whispering of his father's journeys. He remembered Abraham, the altars, the oaths, the waiting, and understood that faith was never a single act, but a way of life written across generations. He called his servants and digged again the wells of water, which they had digged in the days of Abraham, his father. For the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham. And he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. But the herdsmen of Gerar strove with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, The water is ours. And he called the name of the well Isaac, meaning contention, because they strove with him. They digged another well and strove for that also, and he called the name of it Sitnah, meaning enmity. Isaac said nothing. He did not fight, he moved on. He removed from thence, and digged another well, and for that they strove not. And he called the name of it Rehoboth, and he said, For now the Lord hath made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. In that moment, the wind that had carried dust now seemed to carry peace. The sun fell softer. The tension between peoples eased. And in Isaac's quiet endurance, God's promise unfolded, not through conquest, but through calm. Then Isaac went up from thence to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared unto him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father, fear not, for I am with thee, and will bless thee, and multiply thy seed for my servant Abraham's sake. Isaac built an altar there, and called upon the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants digged a well. The night at Beersheba was cool and still. The stars that once spoke to Abraham now burned above Isaac's head, whispering of the same eternal promise. Morning came, and with it, footsteps. Abimelech came to him from Gerar with Ahuzzath his friend, and Phicol the chief captain of his army. Isaac looked upon them and said, Wherefore come ye to me, seeing ye hate me, and have sent me away from you? And they said, We saw certainly that the Lord was with thee, and we said, Let there be now an oath betwixt us, even betwixt us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou wilt do us no hurt, as we have not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace. Thou art now the blessed of the Lord. So he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink, and they rose up betimes in the morning, and sware one to another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. It came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came, and told him concerning the well which they had digged, and said unto him, We have found water. And he called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. The well of the oath. The famine had begun in fear, it ended in covenant. From the dryness of the land to the flowing of the wells, from deceit born of fear to peace sealed by oath. The arc of Isaac's journey curved like a river, finding its course again. He had not crossed seas or built altars on mountains as his father had, Yet his faith had been tested in subtler ways, in the patience to stay, in the humility to yield, in the grace to dig again where others buried. The Lord's presence followed him, not as flame, but as water, quietly, persistently, filling the places where others saw only dust. That night, as the camp settled into rest, Isaac stood by the well at Beersheba. The stars reflected faintly in the water's dark mirror. He remembered the voice that told him, "Fear not, for I am with thee," and he believed. He lowered his hands into the cool water, feeling it slip through his fingers, living proof that what is buried in faith will rise again in blessing. The wind passed softly through the camp, carrying the sound of distant laughter. Rebekah's, perhaps, or the quiet voices of servants telling stories by lamplight. The famine had passed, but its memory remained. The memory of how fear had been turned into faith and striving into peace. In the land that once withered beneath his feet, Isaac learned that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of God. And in Beersheba, beneath the same stars that guided Abraham, the covenant flowed again, quiet as water in the desert, eternal as the promise that spoke through generations. Evening settles over Beersheba. The air cools, and the long shadows stretch across the camp like memories too heavy to fade. Isaac sits near the entrance of his tent, the light of the fading sun resting on his worn face. The years have been kind and quiet, yet beneath the calm lies an ache that words cannot soothe, the ache of watching his son choose a path far from the promise. Esau, the firstborn, the hunter whose laughter once filled these tents, has taken wives from the daughters of Heth. Judith and Basmath, women of the land, strangers to the covenant of Abraham. Their beauty is fierce, their presence loud. They worship other gods, speak other prayers, and bring other customs into the camp. The house that once pulsed with the rhythm of worship and peace now trembles with a dissonant song. Rebekah feels it most deeply. She moves through the tent of Sarah with a heaviness that no word can mend. Once, that tent had been filled with laughter, her own, when she first became Isaac's bride, and the laughter of answered prayer when her barren years ended. But now her joy feels distant, swallowed by the unease that fills her days. She watches Esau come and go, his quiver on his back, his garments smelling of the wild. He still brings meat to his father, still smiles with that boyish pride that once charmed her heart. Yet she cannot reach him. He lives near the edge of the camp, drawn to the open fields and to the world beyond the covenant's borders. At night, she kneels by the flickering lamp and prays, not for blessing now, but for mercy. Isaac, ever still and thoughtful, says little. His love for Esau has always been strong, tendered by the scent of the hunt, by the quiet bond between father and son. Yet even he cannot deny the change that has come upon their household. The laughter of Esau's wives grates against his spirit, and their idols cast unseen shadows across his peace. They bring with them their own altars, their songs, their feasts to gods who cannot hear. Their presence does not bring harmony, only tension that sits like sand in the wind, always shifting, never settled. Isaac's faith has endured famine, strife, and the envy of nations. But this sorrow is different, quieter, more personal. It does not confront him from without, but from within his own bloodline. The son of promise now fathers a lineage of conflict. He remembers his father, Abraham, and the care with which he sought a wife for him, sending his servant back to the land of their kin. swearing that Isaac would not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. That covenantal care preserved the promise. But now Esau, born into that same grace, has chosen otherwise. Isaac feels the weight of what cannot be undone. There are no arguments, no rebukes. He is not a man of harsh words. His faith has always lived in quiet endurance. Yet silence does not mean peace. The sorrow sits beside him like an unseen guest. Rebekah, too, hides her tears. To her, the choice of Esau feels like a fracture in the line of blessing, a crack that widens with every passing day. She sees in his foreign wives the possibility of forgetting, of drifting from the God who called Abraham under the stars. She confides in Isaac little, for his grief is his own, deep and wordless. They have shared joy and pain together. The long wait for children, the struggle of their sons within her womb, the years of quiet obedience in the land. But now, their unity carries the quiet sorrow of parents who cannot protect the soul of their child. At twilight, Isaac prays. His words are not long or loud. They rise softly, like incense in the still air. Lord, he whispers, you who made promise to my father and to me, remember my sons. There is no answer in the wind, no sign in the stars. Yet Isaac continues to pray, because faith is not the certainty of sight, but the endurance of love. Esau, unaware of the ache he has caused, moves freely through the land. He hunts and laughs and builds his life among the Hittites. He honors his father with gifts of game, but cannot see the sorrow behind Isaac's smile. His heart beats for the wilderness, not for the covenant, and still Isaac loves him. The tents of the camp remain divided, Rebekah's prayers on one side, Esau's laughter on the other. Jacob, quiet and observant, watches in silence. He does not yet understand the fullness of destiny that hums beneath his father's grief, but he feels its pull. The contrast between the brothers grows sharper with each passing season. One drawn to earth, the other to heaven's whisper. Rebekah sighs as she folds a garment by lamplight. Her heart speaks what her lips do not. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of this land, what good will life be to me? The words are born of exhaustion, not bitterness. The cry of a mother who sees the covenant trembling at the edge of forgetting. Isaac says nothing, but her lament settles into his silence. He, too, knows the cost of compromise, the fragility of obedience. Faith must be guarded, not inherited by habit, but chosen by heart. The desert night deepens, wrapping the camp in quiet. A small flame flickers in the distance. Perhaps Esau's fire, burning in the hills. Isaac gazes toward it, remembering the fire on Moriah long ago, when his own father bound him in faith. How strange, he thinks, that obedience once asked for his life, and now asks only for his patience. He closes his eyes, letting the memory of that mountain fade into prayer. The promise still stands, even when hearts wander. God's faithfulness does not falter with human frailty, and so the night passes, sorrowful, but not hopeless. The covenant breathes still, hidden in the quiet spaces of the tent, waiting for its next unfolding. Beyond the sorrow of Esau's choices, destiny waits in the shadows. Soon, the tent will tremble again, not with laughter, but with the whispers of deception, as a blind father reaches out to bless a son. The years have passed gently over Isaac, yet they have dimmed his eyes until the world before him blurs into shadow. The man who once walked fields beneath the evening light now sits within his tent, wrapped in the stillness of age. His hair is white, his hands are steady but slow, and his sight, once clear as the desert sky, has faded to twilight. He knows his time draws near. The memory of his father Abraham's death still lingers like a whisper on the wind, and Isaac senses that his own story, too, nears its quiet close. He calls softly, his voice aged but warm, "My son." Esau enters, broad, rugged, smelling of the wild. The years have not tamed him. The scent of the fields clings to him like a mark of his freedom. His bow rests upon his shoulder, his hands bear the roughness of the hunt. "My father," Esau answers, stepping closer. "I am old," Isaac says, "and I do not know the day of my death. Now take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. Make me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die." Esau bows his head and goes out, the sound of his steps fading into the sunlight. Within the still tent, Rebekah listens. The years have softened her hair and lined her hands, but her heart remains watchful. Her spirit, once stirred by the divine whisper that told her 2 nations are in your womb, still holds that promise close. She remembers it now, the younger shall rule the elder, and feels the moment unfolding like prophecy reaching its appointed hour. Her heart trembles between love and conviction. She calls for Jacob. He comes quietly, his manner calm, his eyes filled with the thoughtful reserve of a man who lives by reflection rather than impulse. The stillness in him mirrors his father's, but beneath it runs the river of his mother's discernment. Rebekah leans close, her voice low. "I heard your father speak to Esau, saying, 'Bring me game and make me savory food, that I may bless you before the Lord before I die. Now, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you.'" Jacob listens, his breath held. "Go to the flock," she continues, "and bring me 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them, such as your father loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat and bless you before his death." Jacob's eyes widen, not with greed, but with fear. "My brother Esau is a hairy man," he says quietly, "and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and bring a curse upon myself, and not a blessing." Rebekah's gaze softens, though her resolve remains firm. "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice, and go, bring them to me." Jacob hesitates, then nods. He has long learned that his mother's will moves with purpose. He goes and returns swiftly with the goats. Rebekah prepares the meal, her hands steady though her heart beats fast. The scent of seasoned meat fills the air, the same scent that once brought laughter to Isaac's table in brighter years. She takes Esau's best garments, kept carefully in the house, and places them on Jacob. The fabric smells of the open field, of wild earth and wind. She covers his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the skins of the young goats. Then she places the dish and the bread she has made into his trembling hands. "Go to him," she whispers. "Go, and let the Lord's purpose stand." Jacob steps into his father's tent. The air feels thick. The sacred weight of what is about to happen presses on the room. Isaac sits upright, his dim eyes open but unfocused. "My father," Jacob says. Isaac answers, "Here I am." "Who are you, my son?" Jacob's voice wavers, yet he speaks. "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please arise, sit and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." Isaac frowns slightly. Something in the voice seems different, softer, quieter than the hearty tones of Esau. "How is it," he asks, "that you have found it so quickly, my son?" Jacob answers, "Because the Lord your God brought it to me." The words hang in the air. Daring, trembling, strange. Isaac's hands move forward, searching. "Please come near," he says, "that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." Jacob steps close. Isaac's hands, aged and worn, brush over the goat skins. They feel the roughness of hair, the texture of familiarity. The voice, Isaac murmurs, is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He hesitates, but the scent of Esau's garments drifts upward. The smell of the field, of earth and blessing. "Are you really my son Esau?" Jacob whispers, "I am." Isaac sighs, accepting what his senses tell him. "Bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you." Jacob serves him. The meal is quiet. The old man eats slowly, tasting what he believes to be the last feast before his farewell. The meat carries the flavor of home, and the wine softens the moment into stillness. When Isaac finishes, he calls Jacob near again. "Come close, my son, and kiss me." Jacob steps forward, trembling. He bends and kisses his father. Isaac inhales deeply. The smell of the garments fills his failing senses. "See," Isaac says softly, "the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed." Then he begins to bless him. "Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you." The words flow like a river from his heart. Ancient, irrevocable, carried on the breath of covenant. When he finishes, Jacob withdraws quietly, his heart pounding like thunder hidden beneath still water. He steps outside, and scarcely has he gone when Esau enters. "My father," Esau calls cheerfully, "let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me." Isaac freezes. His dim eyes flicker with confusion. "Who are you?" "I am your son," Esau replies, "your firstborn Esau." A silence falls heavy as stone. The realization dawns. The air tightens with the weight of revelation. Then Isaac trembles violently, not from anger, but from awe and fear. "Who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate of all before you came, and I have blessed him. And indeed he shall be blessed." Esau's cry breaks the stillness, a sound that pierces the tent and the heart alike. "Bless me, me also, O my father." Isaac's face folds with sorrow. "Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing." Esau's voice rises again. Desperate, aching, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answers gently, his voice breaking. "Indeed, I have made him your master, and all his brothers I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do now for you, my son?" Esau weeps aloud, the cry of loss, of anger, of destiny closing like a door. "Have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me. Me also, O my father." Isaac's heart cannot bear it. He blesses him still, though the blessing is lesser shadowed. "Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck." Esau rises, his face hardened with grief. The pain becomes bitterness, and bitterness turns to fury. He leaves the tent, his heart burning with the vow that when his father dies, Jacob will not live. Inside, Isaac sits in silence. His trembling has ceased, but his spirit remains still, not with fear now, but with recognition. The deception, the confusion, the trembling, all have led to one truth: the hand of God moves even through human frailty. The blessing, though taken in disguise, belongs where heaven has placed it. He whispers softly into the silence, "Indeed, he shall be blessed." The night deepens. The lamp flickers low. Somewhere in the camp, Rebekah weeps for what has been gained and what has been lost. Jacob hides, knowing the cost of the blessing he carries. Isaac sits alone, the air still heavy with the taste of deception, the scent of goat skins, the echo of cries, the trembling of revelation. The promise remains, but peace has fled for a time. Outside the tent, the stars look down on a family divided by love and prophecy. And soon, in the quiet dawn, a son will flee into the wilderness, carrying a blessing bought with tears. Evening settles softly over Beersheba. The desert wind moves like a sigh through the acacia trees, stirring the edge of Isaac's tent. Inside, the shadows lengthen, not just the shadows of the day, but of a house divided. The air carries the faint trace of smoke from an evening fire, mingled with something quieter still. The ache of parting that has no words. Esau's cry had long faded, but its echo still lingers in the corners of the camp. A wounded roar that broke the stillness when he learned that his father's blessing had gone to another. Since that day, the tents of Isaac have known no peace. A strange silence settled, heavy and watchful, as if the very air waited for something to end. Rebekah moves through that silence like a ghost of her younger self. Her hands, once quick with laughter, now tremble when she touches the linen folds of Jacob's garments. She has seen the anger in Esau's eyes, the way his grief has turned to vengeance. In the stillness of night, she hears his promise, "I will kill my brother Jacob." So she goes to Isaac, her heart divided between sons. Isaac sits near the entrance of his tent, his sight dimmed, but his spirit alert in ways that vision cannot measure. The years have softened him, his once strong frame has bent with time. But there is still quiet strength in his posture. The peace of a man who has learned that faith, like water, takes the shape of whatever vessel God provides. Rebekah's voice is low, careful, almost trembling. "Esau intends harm," she says. "Jacob must flee. To my brother in Haran. Let him go until his brother's fury cools." Isaac listens in silence. He does not question her, nor does he argue. The years have taught him that love often carries its own kind of prophecy. Perhaps he hears in her plea an echo of the voice that once told him to remain in the land, even when famine urged him to flee. Now, he must send his son away, not from hunger, but from wrath. He calls for Jacob. The tent flap stirs. Jacob enters, quiet and uncertain. He does not know if his father's heart still bears the sting of deception, the memory of hands that felt like Esau's, but belonged to him. Yet there is no anger in Isaac's voice, no reproach in his tone, only the deep calm of a man who sees beyond the surface of things. "Come near, my son," Isaac says. Jacob kneels beside him, head bowed. He feels the weight of what he has done. The blessing gained through deceit, the wound it carved through his family. Yet beneath it all, he senses that something larger than his own actions is at work. A thread of purpose woven by unseen hands. Isaac's fingers, frail but steady, rest upon his son's head. "May God Almighty bless you," he says, his words measured and slow, as though each carries eternal weight. "May he make you fruitful and increase your numbers until you become a community of peoples." May he give you the blessing of Abraham, to you and to your descendants, so that you may take possession of the land God gave to your grandfather. The tent is silent when he finishes. Only the distant sound of the wind moving through the dry hills answers him. It is not a grand farewell, not a speech heavy with emotion, but something gentler, the quiet recognition that destiny has taken its course. Rebekah stands a few steps away, her eyes glistening in the half-light. She knows this may be the last time she sees her beloved son. The ache is almost too much to bear, yet she does not cry out. She holds her sorrow like a secret. Love, she has learned, must sometimes let go. Jacob rises. He looks once more at his father, this quiet heir of faith who has lived not by conquest, but by endurance. There is something holy in Isaac's stillness, something that speaks of trust even in the midst of uncertainty. At dawn, Jacob departs. The horizon glows faintly gold as he walks away from Beersheba, the land of his father. His steps are slow at first, as if each pace pulls against invisible roots. The weight of home, the voice of his mother, the shadow of his brother's fury. Ahead lies the long road to Haran, and beyond it, an unknown future. Isaac remains in his tent long after Jacob is gone. He hears the distant rustle of camels, the fading echo of footsteps in the sand. For a moment, the silence is unbearable. Then he breathes deeply, and in that breath, he remembers his own youth. The day he once walked with his father up a mountain, the wood for sacrifice upon his back. He remembers the moment the knife hovered above him, and the voice of God stilled it. He remembers what it means to surrender. Now, it is his turn to be the one who lets go. Outside, the desert brightens with morning. The tents gleam pale in the sun. The servants begin their daily tasks. The flocks move toward distant grazing grounds. And life continues, as it always has, in rhythms older than sorrow. Rebekah does not speak of her grief. She busies herself with the quiet labors of the camp, her hands steady, her heart wandering toward the east. Somewhere out there, her son walks beneath the same sky. Somewhere, God watches him as he once watched Isaac on Moriah, Abraham in his old age, and Sarah in her waiting. Isaac's life drifts into its final stillness, not with drama but with peace. The story does not say much more of him, only that he dwells in Beersheba, that he blesses again when the time comes, that he continues to walk in the slow faith of his fathers. He does not rage against the past or question the mysterious ways of God. He simply believes that the promise spoken long ago will find its way, no matter how far it must travel. In the evenings, when the air cools and the stars begin to appear, Isaac often sits alone outside his tent. His eyes are dim, but he knows where each star lies, the same heavens under which Abraham once counted the uncountable. The promise still gleams there, unbroken and eternal. He prays not for himself, but for his sons, for Esau, whose anger may one day soften, and for Jacob, whose journey will carve new stories into the lineage of faith. He prays for peace, for patience, for the stillness to endure. The desert is silent but alive. The way silence always is when it carries the weight of God. In that hush, Isaac's life becomes what it has always been, a bridge. Between generations, between promises, between the voice of God and the faith of men. The sun sinks, the light fades, and in the gentle dark, Isaac's spirit rests, not in triumph, not in defeat, but in trust. Far to the east, a traveller dreams of heaven's ladder, and in Beersheba, an old man prays beneath familiar stars. two threads of one promise, stretching quietly toward eternity. The sun lowers over the oaks of Mamre, casting long amber threads across the fields. In the distance, the tents of Isaac's household rest in the hush of evening. Time has gentled everything here. The voices, the winds, even the light. And within one of those tents lies the quiet heir of promise, old and full of days. Isaac's hair has turned white as sand. His eyes, once dimmed by age, now gleam faintly with a deeper sight, not of earth, but of eternity. He lies upon woven blankets, the scent of myrrh faint in the air, while the murmur of servants fades softly beyond the tent walls. The world outside still stirs with the movement of flocks and suns, but Isaac's world has narrowed to peace. He feels the weight of years, not as burden, but as harvest. The covenant once placed upon his father's shoulders now lives in the hands of his sons. Jacob has returned from the east, his heart changed by long years of struggle and grace. Esau, too, has come, older, quieter, reconciled. They stand now beside their father's bed, the same heir holding them, the same promise binding their blood. The tent is silent except for the soft rasp of Isaac's breath. He reaches out his hand, that same hand that once trembled over Jacob's blessing, and touches each son in turn. His fingers are light, but his spirit is firm. He says little. Words have long since yielded to knowing. The look in his eyes is enough. Forgiveness for Esau, affirmation for Jacob, peace for them both. The old division fades like a shadow in morning light. Outside, the sky deepens. The scent of earth cools as night draws near. Isaac feels the familiar nearness of God, not in fire or thunder, but in stillness. It is the same presence that spoke to his father beneath the stars, the same presence that kept him in famine and fear, the same presence that waited beside the wells he dug when all else opposed him. He has lived long enough to know that faith is not always seen in miracles, but in the patience to wait when heaven is silent. He has watched nations rise and brothers part, but through every season, the promise has endured. Quiet, unbroken, sure. Now, as he lies between his sons, Isaac feels that promise draw near again. It hums within his fading pulse, steady as a heartbeat. He closes his eyes. The memories flow like gentle streams. His father's laughter, his mother's hands, the face of Rebekah in her youth, veiled, radiant, brave. He sees her again, smiling beyond the veil of years, waiting just beyond sight. The breath within him grows shallow. Jacob leans close, his voice trembling with the reverence of a son who once deceived and has since been redeemed. Esau's hand rests on the bed's edge, strong, scarred, still capable of tenderness. In their silence, the old man's peace fills the room like fragrance. Isaac draws one more breath, long, steady, final, and then the stillness deepens, complete and kind. The air stills. The lamp trembles, then steadies again, and in that breathless pause, Isaac's spirit is gathered to his fathers. To Abraham and Sarah, to the generations of the promise fulfilled. Jacob lowers his head, tears warm against his hands. Esau stands beside him, his chest rising and falling, his face softened by the gravity of love. No quarrel remains now. Only brothers, sons standing in the quiet of something greater than them both. Together they step out into the night. Above them, the stars burn bright, the same stars their grandfather once counted beneath the covenant sky. They bury their father in the cave of Machpelah, beside Abraham and Sarah. A resting place not of endings, but of continuity. The earth receives the dust and heaven keeps the faith. The torches flicker, then fade. The camp grows silent once more, but the promise still whispers beneath the ground. The same promise, still alive in Jacob's heart. Rebekah's tent stands quiet not far away. Her voice, once so full of counsel and care, has long gone still. But Isaac's peace remains, hovering over the camp, settling into every shadow. It is the peace of fulfillment, of faith that needed no spectacle. And in the cool of that desert night, Jacob looks eastward toward the land of his children yet unborn, and Esau turns toward his own dwelling in Seir. Two brothers, two destinies. Yet for a moment, both are bound in reverence beside their father's grave. The stars shimmer, the covenant breathes, and the wells of Isaac still whisper in the wind. Echoes of a man who learned that faith, at its truest, is quiet. And so Isaac, the quiet heir, is gathered to his fathers, full of days and peace. The wells he dug still glisten beneath the dust, and his sons carry the promise onward. Soon, Jacob's journey will lead him to Bethel once more, and there, in the hush of dawn, God will speak again. And so, the candle of Isaac's quiet life flickers low. In the hush that follows his story, what lingers is not thunder or triumph, but peace, the deep and steady kind that breathes between the heartbeats of faith. The same God who called Abraham beneath the stars, who watched over Jacob as he dreamed beneath the open sky, was the God who walked silently beside Isaac. He did not speak in fire this time, nor wrestle through the night. He simply remained, a still presence in the gentle rhythm of ordinary days. Through wells dug in silence, through long years of waiting, through blessings given and passed on, Isaac's life whispers a truth easily forgotten. Faith does not always shout to be heard. Sometimes it rests quietly in obedience, a trust so deep it no longer needs signs or thunder to believe. There is holiness in stillness, divinity in patience, and quiet courage in those who keep walking when heaven seems silent. As night folds softly around you, may you feel a touch of that stillness too, the same peace that once settled over tents and fields beneath an ancient sky. Let your breath slow. Let the world grow distant. Know that the same God who guided Isaac still watches through the dark, unchanging, tender, near. Thank you for sharing this quiet hour with me, for letting the hush of history rest beside you. You are now part of its gentle echo, a listener among those who keep remembrance alive through stillness. This has been the Sleeping Hourglass, where the past tucks you in. If tonight's story brought you peace, you're always welcome to return, to rest again among the whispers of time. So close your eyes now, and may the quiet faith of Isaac drift into your dreams, steady, serene, eternal. Good night.